Pick up your gear and open your chests. Throw on your armor and head out on a quest. Hey, hey, it's a brand new day. On the Sword Coast, your allies will help with blades and bows and magic as well. Hey, hey, heroes on their way. Fighting forever against overwhelming odds. Fighting together in favor of multiple gods. Idle champions of the forgotten realms. Idle champions, adventure never ends. Idle champions, get you all out there. Idle champions, you will say it again. Idle champions. From Waterdeep to Icewind, head out the Chult or Shadowfell, hey, hey. Together we stay. Walk to the monsters, walk to the boss, walk to the right, it's never a loss, hey, hey. Bad guys to slay. Fighting forever against overwhelming odds. Fighting together in favor of multiple gods. Idle champions of the forgotten realms. Idle champions, adventure never ends. Idle champions, get you all out there. Idle champions, you will say it again. Idle champions.
Hello everybody, welcome back to another Gaarawarr's Guide, the tutorial show. I'm Gaarawarr, as always, I think. And today's topic is going to be the Knights of Takhisis. Knights of Takhisis. So, what are the Knights of Takhisis? Well, it's a new pack in the shop. Well, is it a pack? Oh, yeah, there we go. Knights of Takhisis bundle. I'm like, they better bundle it all up. You got your Arkhan, you got your Krull, you got your Torogar. Oh, man, these are... This one really... This one's wild. Just gotta say, I mean, they're all pretty... There's lots of gold. There's lots of gold and black. Yeah. So we're going to be talking about these three champions today. Champions today. Well, you know, I didn't even do a shield. I didn't realize they came with feats. I'm bad at this. Dark Order Synergy. I guess Zealot, sure. Potion of Polish. Weapon Master. Yeah, lots of chests. Lots of chests. Unlocks the champions. If you don't, well, you'll own one. You'll own Arkhan. Arkhan's a core champion. Echo. Echo? Hold on. I'm not getting an echo. I don't have it on anywhere other than here, folks. Maybe that's you, Belswin. Maybe that's just you. No worries. We want to make sure everybody can hear. Everybody can hear. It's because I do the talking. We also got the closed captions that are mostly accurate. They do their best job, just like we all do on any given day. All right, so folks, we're going to dive into these. If you've never been to a tutorial show before, in this show I talk on the topic for an hour-ish with three champions. It may not take the whole hour. We'll see. And then in the second hour, answer all the questions. So if you have questions, as the bot just put in a chat, type question at the start. Because otherwise, the mods may not notice because they're busy doing mod things. Jordan's in the mod pod today, so they'll be grabbing your questions out of chat. Yeah. Yeah, that's the way it works. Your questions can be on the topic today. Those will get answered first in the second half, but they can also just be about anything that has to do with idle champions, game mechanics, champions, etc., etc., etc. I can do all that stuff except for like the dev questions, like why did you make this decision? I didn't. I'm not a developer. So, anything but those. Fair game. Anything about the game except those. Fair game. All right. So, the Knights of Takhisis is the Dragonlance way, is my understanding, is the Dragonlance way of saying, hey, followers of Tiamat. Guess who the followers of Tiamat are in our game? The Dark Order. That is the affiliation for, if we look at it here, Arkhan, Krull, and Torogar currently. Now, Arkhan is also part of Force Grey. You can see both of their affiliations when you hover over the listing. But, they're a follower of Tiamat. They do the Tiamat things. Arkhan's one of your core champions. So what does that mean? That means that this is one of the starting 12 champions you get in the game. They are in slot 12. They are the last one you unlock as you progress through the game. As you progress through the beginning of the game. And get that bench slot 12 open. So, let's take a look at this champion. They are male Dragonborn Paladin. Neutral evil, and they take the DPS and tanking role. So Arkhan was the first champion to tank and DPS at the same time. Just double checking. Yeah, I don't have any feats in. So they start off at 30 overwhelm, so they're real tanky. They can take a beating. They can stack up to 30 champions before they start taking bonus damage, is what that means. The base attack can actually change a bit depending on the situation, but it starts off as Tiamat's Fury, so they are a default melee tank. So Arkhan attacks the closest enemy with the Fury of Tiamat. So just they attack one thing. First ability up for Arkhan, Rage of the Dragonborn. So this is the adjustment to the way their base attack works. When 6 or more enemies are attacking Arkhan, his base attack gains a small cleave and does 5 times damage. So you get a bit damage bonus, and it becomes a small AoE. So this is good because this means, if things are stacking up on them because they're the tank, they're going to start clearing them out a little quicker. When 16 or more enemies are attacking, his base attack is a massive flame breath attack that does 25 times the normal damage. This is a cone-based attack, so it will breathe out in a cone. Counts each enemy in rage stack as an additional attacker. So when you are dealing with a boss, if it gets up to enrage 16 or higher, it will start doing the flame breath, and you do get the damage bonuses. So the more things that are attacking Arkhan as you push deeper and deeper towards your wall, the more damage they're going to do to a point, right? 6 plus 5 times damage, 16 plus 25 times damage. Heroic Fury is the standard health share for tanks. Evil tanks tend to be fairly selfish, but they at least share some of their health there. And then we hop into the specialization. So the specialization is kind of the key for Arkhan. Basically, are you going to be using them? Well, I almost said to tank or to DPS, but that's not necessarily true. You can kind of do. I find most people are going to do usurp power if they're going to be DPSing. Bulk up tends to just kind of be tanky. You're throwing them in as a tank, but that you can do usurp power in tank as well with some situations. So kind of figure out what's going on, and how you're trying to use Arkhan. So the bulk up, all positional formation abilities Arkhan receives are buffed by a %. This % varies for like gear reasons and stuff. If Arkhan is in the front column of the formation, so this is like you are going to be tanking and potentially DPSing at the same time, depending on on the formation you're building. Know that these abilities start off when you have no gear at 50%. So it's buffed by 50%. And then as you get more and more gear, these become much, much stronger. So default, you're going to start off fairly low, and then with gear, it's going to go up a lot, right? Usurp Power, this is the one most people are going to run when they're running Arkhan, or at least the one I'm most familiar with people running. Arkhan receives all positional formation abilities received by adjacent champions that don't already target Arkhan at a much higher rate. So this is the one that gets into the really odd formation building. We've talked about Arkhan before. Arkhan's one of those champions that's, I kind of call it formation building, like advanced formation building, because they don't want buffs the same way other people want buffs. Other champions want buffs directly on them. Arkhan wants it to everyone but them, and then they pull it off at a higher amount. They pull that buff off at a higher amount. So a lot of times this is the one people are going to use, or you'll see people talk about the most. But because to do Usurp Power, you can be anywhere in the formation. You don't have to be in the tank line. I know they're a tank, but that doesn't mean they have to go on the tank line. Depending on the formation layout and the champions you have available, it might be better to put them somewhere else. So this one can be very interesting and does require a lot of very specific formation ability. Again, this deals with positional formation abilities, so that's an ability that says something along the lines of, but not limited to, so-and-so buffs people in the same column that they're in, right? That same column that they're in statement is the positional statement. Or they buff someone who's adjacent to them. That's the positional statement. Now, if it says something like buffs X amount per champion adjacent to them, that's not a positional formation ability. That's just a formation ability that's value is based on positions. Not the same thing. Not the same thing. All right. Back into Arkhan, but that is the big usurp power and bulk up. These two are the big focuses of Arkhan when you're using them. Rising Anger. This increases damage of evil champions by 100% for each enemy attacking Arkhan and or each enemy in rage stack. So this is the tank stacking mechanic. This does mean you can use Arkhan as a somewhat traditional tank again, if you need to. But they'll only buff evil champions. They'll only buff other evil champions. This does buff themselves because they are evil. So, Dark Order Synergy. So this is kind of their affiliation bonus. Arkhan attacks 0.5 seconds sooner for each other Dark Order member in the formation. So as you can see, my attack is down to about 2.4 seconds. There are 2 other Dark Order members. I don't know that we're getting more. Like, we kind of got up to 3 Dark Order members, and then that was kind of it. I don't know that we'll see more of them in the future, but if we do, then this becomes an even bigger deal, right? But that's it, folks. They are just straightforward. They don't even have tons of upgrades. They're just all about the DPS and doing as much damage as possible in the name of Tiamat. But again, it's more about... Arkhan's more about the other champions you put in the formation and making sure they're placed correctly than anything else. And then, keep in mind, again, I said you can put Arkhan in, you don't have to put them in the tank line. Now, keep in mind, when 6+ enemies are attacking Arkhan, they get the cleave, right? You don't get that if they're not in the tank line. But... not normally. The same with the 16+. But because it says it counts each enemy in rage stack as an additional attacker, this does work on boss level. So as the boss starts to enrage and gets to 6+, they get a cleave and the 5 times damage. And 16+, they get the 25 times damage with the flame breath. So this does work because of enrage stacks. It doesn't kick on any unless you see those enrage stacks if they're not in the front line. So if I were running Arkhan back here with it, this is not a tank. Or I know, Krull a big boy. Krull not a tank though. If I was running it like this though, with a tank up here, it would take enrage stacks to get those bonuses, to get those combat bonuses. Ultimate. This is Chango Unchained. Arkhan's pet Manticore Chango enters the battle, leaping to a random enemy and dealing enormous damage to it and all nearby foes. Here we go. Boom! Look, it's a Manticore. And then it's gone. Real fast animation, but it's also a fairly quick cooldown. Mine's maxed out with cooldown reduction, so we're looking at about, I think that it is. Yeah. So we're looking only 45 seconds when you have your capped cooldown reduction item. Otherwise, a couple minutes. But bulked up or the powered up Arkhan go real fast. Item wise, we see a pair of self damage items because they're not a support. They're all about the DPS. Oddly, we see a gold find item. This has thrown people for quite a while, and will continue to throw people. Arkhan's not a gold find champion. They do have a gold item for some reason. That's a good question for Dev Insights. What they don't have is a health item. That's usually what we'd see on a tank. But it's just not the way that's not the way it went for some reason. Then we see bulk up and usurp power. So this is all in one item. So you only really, this is the main item. This is the main item for Arkhan because this is the one that you want, ramped up as high as possible. They also have ultimate attack damage, ultimate cooldown. For feats, they have a variety of interesting feats. Again, here's some gold find. Straight up 50%. We get health because they're tank. We get self-damage because they're DPS. You do get bulk up and usurp feats. And you get overwhelm feats, again, because tank. There's a dexterity feat. That off the top of my mind, I'm not sure what Dex 15 would get them. Again, they're core champions, so some of their original feats, especially when it comes to the stat feats, were kind of just thrown out there. It might qualify you for a variant, it might qualify you for someone's ability, but it's not like a patron qualification type thing. Then they have an interesting one that goes into some critical role and action. The Hand of Vecna feat. So Arkhan deals 240% more damage, but slowly takes damage over time. There's a feat for the Hand of Vecna. There's also a skin for that's separate from this pack, so you can see it on them, but you can't just but if you put the skin on, it's just a visual. You need the feat to actually get the damage bonus. Just keep in mind, they are going to take damage every second. So you have to have some way of, if you want that bonus damage, 240% is a lot more than the other bonuses that you're getting. You have to have some kind of healing, or it's got to be coming out of a shield or something. They will totally nuke themselves. It doesn't stop. They'll just be toast. So keep that in mind with that feat. All right, that's Arkhan. Let's go on. We'll leave. You know what? We'll leave Krull for last, for reasons. Torogar, our big Minotaur boy. I'm a fan of big Minotaur boys. Male Minotaur Barbarian, Lawful Evil, DPS support. I will say I know they got some big chunky swords. I tend to use them as support when I do use them, but but it's fun watching them slice things with the swords. Speaking of base attack fiery longswords, Torogar inflames his golden blades and then attacks the nearest enemy. Just do want to point out, strong boy, 23 strength. It's rare in this game when we see anybody with over 20 in a stat. So I just want to call that out. 23 strength. It doesn't change the amount of damage. There isn't a damage modifier in the game for it, but it's neat. Markings of a zealot. So this is Torogar is a permanent stacking champion. What that means is they have an ability, this one, that allows them to gain stacks that give them bonuses to things, and those bonuses last forever. Not just towards the end of the run, forever. I'm doing my best Sandlot impression. Marking of Zealot. Whenever Torogar or an adjacent champion kills an enemy, Torogar gains a Zealot stack. Torogar's damage is increased by a small percent for each Zealot stack he has collected additively, and those stacks persist through resets. So this is a self-damage buff that stacks forever. Okay. Now, if you're using them as a support in a formation, you can still stack their buff. They don't need to be the killing because, again, it says an adjacent champion kills an enemy. So this just tells you that if you're pairing them as a support, they kind of want to be next to the DPS so they can stack up. They can collect their own damage stacks for later, right? And then we go into Preach. Marking as a Zealot into Preach. Increase the damage of all other evil champions by a small percent for each Zealot stack Torogar has. So this is the way they share that damage from that permanent stacking stuff with other people. And as you can see, maybe shares it a little better than they give it to themselves. Now, it does say all other evil champions. So this, unlike Zorbu, who you may or may not have seen before, who has a similar permanent stacking mechanic, they don't buff themselves. So not quite as OP as Zorbu. This was kind of a tuned down version of a Zorbu type stack situation. Blood Rage. This is the fun one. Whenever Torogar Zealot stacks reach a multiple of 50. I know you might be tempted to try to track that, but don't. Just know it's going to hit them occasionally. This is again why you want them next to the DPS, so they're constantly building up stacks. Whenever their Zealot stacks reach a multiple of 50, Torogar enters a Blood Rage for 30 seconds. While active, if Torogar fails to kill an enemy, he adds a Mark of Tiamat to them, increasing damage taken from all champions by a percent. At several Zealot stack levels, Blood Rage adds additional benefits. We're going to talk about those in a second. This is basically a damage on moment. Every time they hit a multiple of 50, they will go into a Blood Rage. I'm going to demonstrate this with their... we'll do this in a moment. Forgot I'm not there yet. We'll demonstrate what that looks like in a moment, but it's pretty neat. So this is going to add more damage. So this is a state you want them in. And they're going to gain additional benefits, and we'll talk about those. Well, we can just go talk about those benefits right now. Some of the effects that you're going to get, like the information you're going to need to get off the formation buffs page. So if we come over here to Blood Rage, we can see Zealot stack bonuses. So we can also see Zealot stacks. You can see I have a little over 2.5 million Zealot stacks. This number is important. You'll see it in a moment. And you can also see that when they're in a blood range, they get a bonus to the damage that's generated by that. So if we come down here to Blood Rage, we can see Zealot stack bonuses when you have 250 stacks, and these are the permanent stacks. 250 or more, a Mark of Tiamat stuns enemies for 2 seconds. So remember, that mark goes on when they do the Blood Rage. So once you reach this point, not only are they taking extra damage from all champions, they're stunned when they're hit. 2,500 stacks and more, Torogar adds a small AoE to the base attack at half damage. So this turns them from a single target champion into an AoE champion. It is a half damage, but honestly, because we're dealing with large numbers, half damage ain't that big a deal. At 25,000 stacks or more, enemies with the Mark of Tiamat have their attack cooldown increased by 1 second. This is a nice survivability feature. This means that when you hit them and mark them, they're going to be attacking slower, which means your tanks are going to stay alive longer, which means you're going to have a longer period of time to kill them, right? Super nice. And remember, when he's in a blood range, if you have all of this stuff unlocked, like I do, you get all of this with each Mark of Tiamat. Like, for each person that has a mark, all of these things apply. At 250,000 stacks, Torogar reduces his base attack cooldown by 1 second, so attacks faster. Yay. And at 2.5 million stacks, which is where I have mine, The damage bonus from Arkhan of Tiamat increases 200% multiplicatively. So a much bigger damage bonus. Much bigger damage bonus. So when you get Torogar, one of the things you'll see people say is, oh yeah, they're a lot better when you stack them up. Because until you get all of these bonuses, they're kind of not really in their full power. So remember, Torogar stacks just based off either killing an enemy themselves or being adjacent to an enemy that's killed. So this comes up a lot when people are like, oh, well, you do your where do I go to kill farm? And there's some very specific types of variants that are going to allow you to do this quickly. The one that gets commented most often is the regular campaign variant in Waterdeep called Twilight Twist. A lot of times you don't want to complete a variant like this because it allows you to go stack up champions like this very quickly. Twilight Twist has a variant rule where when you kill an enemy, it gets back up again after like 6 seconds. Which means you can end up with 100 enemies is the max of a number of enemies you can have on the screen at once. There can be 100 enemies on the screen. Torogar or an adjacent champion can kill them, and then 6 seconds later they get back up again, and then you kill 100 enemies again, and then they get back up again, and then 100 enemies again, which is the fastest way to stack kills in this game, because every time you get them to 0 health, it counts for this. Right? So these are ways that you can stack these champions quickly. So when you do get a champion like this with a permanent stacking mechanic, ask around, find the variants that are available, and go stack them up, because that's a good investment of your time, usually. Ultimate is Bull Rush. We'll get there in a second. Let's talk about their specializations first, because it can change some things. Tiamat's Word versus Tiamat's Rage. Tiamat's Word Torogar now gains a Zealot stack when any evil champion kills an enemy. Max 1 stack per kill. So if you want to, if your formation is a little restrictive, and you can't put or don't want to put Torogar right next to your DPS, but your DPS is evil, you could choose Tiamat's Word. Most of the time, maybe that's not necessarily the scenario for reasons, but it is an option for you. Tiamat's Rage is the one I tend to default to. It increases the duration of Blood Rage by 15 seconds, which is a big deal, folks, because remember, you get that entire list. Once you get them all unlocked, you get that entire list of bonus effects and all that bonus damage off anything marked by Torogar. And now it goes from 30 seconds to 45 seconds. Also, you now trigger this when Torogar's ultimate is used. So instead of having to wait to hit a multiple of 50, you can just hit the ultimate and they'll go into a Blood Rage. Oh, they're in one right now. They've got the red eyes going on. They're glowy. So this is the one that I tend to go to. Here's what the Bull Rush looks like. Torogar lowers his head and rushes a random distant enemy, leaving a trail of fire in his wake. The fire deals damage over time to enemies who stand in it. And away we go. Charge! Oh, they didn't even charge, because the thing there, it didn't. It totally killed the animation. Wow, that's interesting. That's a bug. They should have run it. We'll show it again later. They should have run across the screen. It totally just used my ultimate and didn't give me anything back. Rude. No, wrong one. Rude. This is a little hacky way to reset your ultimate. Okay, here we go. We're going to do that. We're going to pull these off so they don't die by somebody else. Here we go. Charge, fire. You can see their eyes are all lit, and they've got the mark of Tiamat is all inflamed on their chest. This is how you know they're in a Blood Rage. This is how you know. Okay, that's better. Now I feel better. For whatever reason, because the enemy they were going to jump to died, it just canceled the whole thing. That's a bug. That's a bug, folks. Not one I've run into before, but I don't use Tiamat. I don't use Torogar. I don't use Torogar a whole lot. Torogar Torogar's all about them evil champions and supporting evil champions, and I don't tend to run evil champion DPS. But that's just me. Okay. Dark Order Synergy, again, this is kind of the affiliation effect. This increases the effect of Preach by 100% for each Dark Order member adjacent to Torogar. So ultimately, what you want is something that looks like this. Or this. I mean, just as long as all the Dark Order members are adjacent to Torogar. I keep saying Tiamat. They're gonna get more of the Preach bonus. More of the Preach bonus. And at this point, I'm up to an E10 bonus with them next to each other, and that's kind of nice. E17 sitting on Preach right now. That ain't nothing. So, you know, could be useful. Could be useful. E11 otherwise, right? Grabbing another EO6 just off that kind of placement. That's not bad if you're going to use them together. That's going to be all their abilities. Item-wise, we get a damage all champions because they are support. There's a self-damage item as well. You get markings of the zealot, so this ramps up that permanent stack damage. And then you get preach. This is what turns that permanent stack damage into buffs for other people. Then we have the Dark Order Synergy item. That's what ramped that up so much when I set them next to each other. And then you get an ultimate attack cooldown. Feat-wise, self-damage, damage all champions, and then Dark Order Synergy, and a Markings of the Zealot. Markings of the Zealot is the one that's just got released with this pack. It's probably the nicest of the feats. Yeah, because Markings of the Zealot is the big deal. So Torogar could use better feat support. Better feat support. All right, let's talk about Krull, baby. Krull. Kind of a big deal. Kind of a big deal. Krull, before I even go into Krull, I'm just going to say right off the, I'm biased. I'm a big Krull fan. Krull remains to this day like the champion that if someone's like ignoring everything in the game, everything else in the game, ignoring trying to get to split the party first, or trying to like build up speech. If you just want like the most impactful champion to a new player's progression, Gaarawarr, who would you recommend? And Krull. Krull is just they're I mean, they might be a big spiky turtle, but they're a snowball champion. And when you're brand new, they snowball your progress for reasons that we're going to talk about here in a bit. Male Turtle, Cleric, Lawful Evil Support, and Gold Find. Oh, so much gold. Again, Dark Order affiliation. Base attack is Necrotic Touch. Krull attacks a random enemy with his maul. Now, that's what it is normally. I have unlocked an ability. They're Draconic Plague, so once you unlock that, it also gets the feature adding a plague if possible, or adding 2 stacks to each of their plagues. So we're going to talk about what this means in a moment. All right. So, Draconic Plague. This is... Krull has 2 abilities. One that's kind of their core. That's Draconic Plague. And then one that, for all intents and purposes, breaks it and makes it super strong. So, Draconic Plague. Every 5 seconds, Krull applies a Draconic Plague to the next enemy to spawn. So, when an enemy spawns out over here on the right-hand side, you will see a little glass vial that's a different color. Like there it was there. There's a green vial, a red vial, and like a purple vial. And when they spawn, they'll just come out with one every 5 seconds. And then again, they add a plague stack. When they hit an enemy, they'll add a plague stack if they don't have any plagues. Or if they don't have all of them, because you can get all 3. Or they add 2 stacks to each of them. So, every 5 seconds, they just apply one automatically. the plagues gain a stack every 3 seconds. So if you don't kill it right away, every 3 seconds, like they start out at 1 stack, and then they'll go to 2, then to 3, then to 4. It'll tick up. There's little numbers on the vials. This increases their power, but caps at 10 stacks. 10 stacks. So it will tick all the way up to 10 and then stop. Plagues can also be applied by Krull's base attack, right, which we talked about earlier. So it will tick up over time, and if he hits them, it could add 2 to it, but that'll only happen if they already have all 3 types of plagues. Here are the 3 types of plagues. Pilfer. An infected enemy drops a certain % more gold per stack. This value varies based off a variety of things. But they're going to drop more gold per stack. Pain. The infected enemy takes more damage per stack. Traitor. When the infected enemy is damaged, nearby enemies also receive a % of that damage per stack. Per stack. So you hit the traitor damages everyone around them, right? So you can get all 3 of these plagues on an enemy. They will all you will get multiple instances. At the they do kind of a Y formation. At the bottom is the green vial. That's Pilfer. At the top right should be the red vial, which is Pain. I say should be because honestly, mostly all I pay attention to is Pilfer. And the purple should be at the top left. Okay, so you can know based off where it appears on the enemies what it is. I can't really demonstrate because we're one-shotting everything. Yep, red was top right. I saw it there. Okay. So now remember, these bonuses might, when it's 1 stack, some of them are going to look better than others. Like I'm looking at Pain at 1100. But remember, you get it to 10 stacks, just add a 0 or move the decimal point over, right? 10 stacks is nice. More stacks is nicer, and we're going to talk about that in a moment, like right now. Welcome to Virulent Strain. Virulent Strain is the ability that basically... they basically had to fix Krull after Krull was released because Virulent Strain broke the game. Virulent Strain. When an enemy with a Draconic Plague dies, there is a small percent... Hold on, let me show you the original base value of this. So we're dealing with base values here. There is a 10% chance that its plague or plagues, if they have more than one, will transfer to another enemy. It's possible for an enemy to gain multiple copies of the same plague when this occurs, which will stack multiplicatively. That's the good way. Yes. So, this is what makes things go a little wonky in the math world. Now, it does mean you have to, yes, you do have to be able to kill at least one enemy that stacks up plagues for this to transfer. But once you do, things start going a little haywire. So it is a very small chance, 10% chance when you first get this, for it to transfer. So 1 in 10 chance that it could transfer. Again, it will transfer any and all plagues that were on that enemy you just killed to a new enemy. It will transfer up to all of them. When it does, what this gets referred to is as instances of a plague. So you start off with 1 instance of a plague, and that plague can stack up to 10 stacks. You get a second instance. What's going to show up is that you'll see that your numbers on your vials are now ticking up to 20 stacks. You can have a maximum of 4 instances. This is what they had to cap. Originally, you could have infinite instances of plagues. It was a problem. It was a problem. So, you can have up to 4 instances, which means you can have up to 40 stacks. So if you've ever heard people talking about, oh yeah, Zaka farming with a 40 stack is the way to go, what they're talking about is doing Azaka farming, the manipulative gameplay of Azaka farming, with an enemy that Krull has a 40 stack pilfer on. Because this is 4 separate instances of this gold find bonus. Okay? Now if that gold find bonus sits, I'm going to bring my calculator out just because I don't trust myself to do this off my head. I can't do math on streams. If it sits at 60%, where it is now, but I get a 10 stack, that's 600% more gold. That's okay. That's not great, but it's okay. Now, if I have it at 20 stacks, I have 360,000% more gold. That's much better. That's 3.6 EO5. That's a solid gold find bonus for this game. Solid. There are some that are higher. If I can get 30 stacks, though, I'm now at 216 million% more gold. That's 2.16 EO8. EO8 gold find is a lot. That's a lot. Okay? But we're not even done. If I get to 40 stacks with just and this is just a 60% bonus, I'm now at 129.6 billion% gold find bonus. So roughly 1.3, E11? This is what breaks Krull. If you can get to 40 stacks, and you can with certain ways, which I'll talk about in a little bit. This is why I did think even with 3 champions we might go an hour, because Krull takes a while to talk about. You get major bonuses. Krull is major bonuses. Now again, you're not going to get that just generically running around with a 10% chance to phrase. I mean, occasionally it will happen because statistically it's going to eventually happen. But it is a very it's something you have to manipulate. It's something you have to create. And at a 10% bonus, it's just kind of not going to happen that often. It's going to be most of the time with this base bonus chance. You're going to see 20 stacks every now most of the time. Occasionally you might see a 30. If you ever see a 40, it probably dies instantly because it might also have 40 stacks of pain on it. And remember, those pain and trader stacks stack multiplicatively the same way. The same way. So it may not look like, 10% damage per stack. Who cares? Well, but it's 100% if there's 10 stacks. And then you can have up to 4 instances multiplying against each other. The damage bonuses go way up, right? But also with pain, the damage they take goes way up. This multiple stacks have not accidentally, but virulent strain triggering multiple stacks of pain on an enemy, and then you hitting it with a support champion who's not supposed to be doing damage is why sometimes you'll end up with an enormous bud number and you'll hover over it and it'll be a support champion. You'll be like, why'd that happen? And when you finish your run, it'll tell you your highest damaging champion was a support champion. Well, what most likely happened, it isn't that the game broke. It isn't that it bugged out. What's most likely happened is you got either a 30 or a 40 stack pain and a support hit it and you didn't notice because everything just kind of blew up. So Krull just kind of breaks stuff. Krull just breaks stuff with the game. It is kind of designed to break things. It is a random occasional happenstance that he breaks stuff. But just know just know if you're ever doing something where it's like you need to have so-and-so setting Bud for like a certain number of levels, like we have in patron challenges, you don't really want Krull in your formation. You don't. Or if you do, don't level them up. Just put them at like level 1, because Plague could throw a bad pain stack could throw all that off. Krull causes strange things to happen. Krull's also the big reason why, if you have Krull in and you're pushing and you get to a boss level and everything dies but one enemy, and then suddenly you're like, why is this enemy invincible? It's not taking any damage at all. Krull. Krull traitored you. Traitor isn't just a name we've learned over the years. Traitor isn't just the name for the person that's doing damage to their enemies. It's the name for the person who's also keeps you from moving forward. Because when you have like a single target attacker and they hit that person with Traitor, and Traitor pulses that damage out to everyone and wipes out everyone else, it leaves that enemy alone. And now you can't kill them because the only thing that was going to kill them was that spread of Traitor damage, and they didn't take it. Krull's the reason you end up stuck on, more often than not, why you end up stuck on a boss level with one enemy left and can't move forward. And there's ways to fix that. You can just reset the level. You can just go back and come back and do it again and hope that the Traitor blows everyone up, including themselves, which can happen with the damage chains. Or you just, gym it. Yeah, Krull's a double agent. Krull is chaos. Krull is chaos. And it can work you can try to control the chaos that is Krull and work it into your favor, but sometimes it's just going to work against you. So ultimately, it isn't that draconic plagues are the problem. It's that virulent strain is the problem. Virulent strain, if this ability didn't exist, Krull would be a perfectly balanced champion. They could even tweak these numbers and whatever, but they can't go anywhere near these numbers because of virulent strain. Now, the virulent strain, 10% chance. You saw it at a little higher. Here we're gonna do some explanations. Hold on. I'm just putting some random feats on here, and then we're gonna come in. Krull has a lot of feats. Krull has one of the largest feat lists in the game. As you can see, it just keeps going. There's some I don't even have and I don't care about. Krull's probably a big reason why the increase to 4 feats on champions recently was a wonderful thing, because Krull forever, despite having this entire huge list of feats, the only 2 feats you ever needed for Krull were Venomous Touch and Increased Toxicity. That was it. It didn't matter what else you had. It didn't matter what the numbers looked like. It didn't matter. The only 2 feats you ever wanted to slot on Krull were Venomous Touch and Increased Toxicity, because these boost Virulent Strain, and Virulent Strain breaks the game. Right? So these 2 feats are two must-have feats. Now, one you get by default. It's green. So if you're ever wondering, well, what feat should I slot on Krull? Well, this one. The second you get them, this goes in. Then whatever else you want, frankly. Whatever else you have that have big numbers. But ultimately, this one needs to just always be in. This is gonna boost Virulent Strain by 50%. So now we're looking at a 15% chance. No, I got them both in. Sorry, dang it! I did this on purpose. Now we have a 15% chance to get this. Now Krull is one of the reasons why we know that these percent numbers are multiplicative in nature. They're not additive, because then when we add as you just saw, when we add the 100% chance. It then doubles it and makes it a 30% chance that the plagues transfer. So 1 in 3, roughly, close enough for government work, chance. Now, when you have both of these feats, this is when you're going to start seeing 20 stacks all the time, 30 stacks fairly commonly, and an occasional 40 stack. And you'll be able to manipulate into 40 stacks for gold farming. It may take a little work, but folks, that multiplicative nature, that bonus... billions of favor? Yes, please. Yes, please. Okay, so just know that this one, Increased Toxicity, only comes out of gold chests. You're going to need to just, you spend your gems on gold chests, you buy gold chests, you open gold chests, eventually you'll get Virulent Strain. and then oh happy day. Because up until then, even if you're doing Azaka farming, if you don't have this one, you're trying to get a 30 stack. Don't try to break it. If you get 40, you're lucky. But don't try to break yourself trying to get a 40 if you don't have increased toxicity. Aim for 30. But whenever you stop to gold farm with Krull, you want at least 20 stack. You want at least want to trigger the multiplicative bonuses from Krull to make them worth having in. Otherwise, Krull's kind of a waste. Okay. All right. We've talked about all of Krull. This is all of Krull. It's 2 abilities now. That's no. There's more. But these are the big things. Draconic Plague and Virulent Strain. And the neat thing to know is that all you have to do is get Krull to upgrade him to level 100, and then Krull's OP. This is why I recommend Krull for new players, because you get Krull to level 100, which is super easy to upgrade to. It's not a huge gold investment. And you have the abilities that can make them just kind of break things occasionally, even though you don't have a high chance. And what's going to happen is, I referred to Krull as a snowball champion, because Krull's going to give you more gold off the enemies that you kill that have their plagues, right? More golds means you could, just like with any gold find champion, it means you can push further with that champion, right? Because you can upgrade them more. And it also means when the run ends, you're going to get more favor. And then more favor means you're going to get more gold off the enemies on the next run. And it just kind of snowballs. And then you stack on top of that pain, where they're going to take more damage per stack of pain. You just get this really great feedback loop where not only is Krull going to let you push further because they're earning you more gold, and you're going to be able to upgrade your champions more when you're new, they're also making enemies take more damage, and they're creating an AoE situation. So even when there's start to get to the point where there's a lot of enemies on the screen and they're building up on your tank, normally that's kind of a bad thing. That's a good thing with Krull, because the longer they're alive, the higher these stacks go. And then when your DPS hits that traitor, he just blows everything up. So they create an AoE wave clear situation. It's a fantastic combination for early gameplay. Yeah. All right. So the other stuff they do, let's see. Oh, specializations. You can either earn more gold, you can do more damage, or you can do more AoE. 99% of the time, I just tell people to go pilfer. When you're a new player, pilfer all the time. Just pilfer. Obviously, Azaka farming, pilfer. If I know I don't need gold, and I'm not going to Azaka farm, which is a rare situation, that's like I'm doing a variant, I'm going to use Krull, then I'll go either Pain or Trader, depending on the situation. Pain is generally the go-to when you know you don't care about gold. Trader is when I want to get gimmicky with explosions, with the explodiness. But most of the time, it's all about pilfer. Oh, I gotta read this. From SailNet. Krull's my first time gate on my free-to-play account. 10 months later, I still haven't gotten in the increased toxicity feat. It's hard. It's just... Yeah, you just gotta invest. You gotta invest all the gems in the gold chest feats, and cross your fingers, because there's no other way to do it. All right, now we're gonna get into the stuff that has to do with the Dark Order, because folks, the core of Krull's kit has nothing whatsoever to do with the people that he hangs out with. Arkhan's army. Krull increases the damage of all evil champions in the formation by 1%. Reduced by a smaller percent for each good champion in the formation. So, really, Krull just wants to be in full evil formations, is what this is saying. And it isn't even Arkhan. It is Arkhan's army, but, like, this doesn't even directly boost Arkhan. It's also a damage of all champions thing, so it's not positional. Neither are their plagues. So, and Arkhan likes positional stuff. The Master's Call. Krull increases the damage of Arkhan. There you go. By 1%, reduced by 75% multiplicatively for each slot away from Krull greater than 1. So again, you want the Dark Order just kind of their abilities want them to be stacked together in some way, so they're all touching each other. Phrasing. All adjacent to each other, that's better. And the Dark Order synergy increases the effect of Arkhan's army by 100% for each Dark Order member adjacent to Krull. So again, yeah, they need to be in a little triangle stack. They need to be in a little triangle stack if you're trying to boost that kind of stuff. Here's the thing. They don't work very well together. And you can play this off as, well, they're evil. Of course they don't work well together, but that's not really how this game works. They should work well together. They just kind of don't. They are strong on their own, so they tend to get used on their own a lot. They don't tend to get used together a lot. But at some point in the future, maybe we'll see a little bit of a rework with them. Maybe they'll be in a season. And maybe some of these, if some of these things became usurpable somehow, I don't know how. Because they want to be, there's some adjustments need to be made to really make them work together. Okay, so this is Krull. Let's talk about Krull's ultimate, Corrupted Ghouls. Corrupted Ghouls, considered second best ultimate in the game for destroying segmented health enemies like Tiamat that we're fighting right now. I know they're followers of Tiamat, but trust me, there's a lore reason why this makes sense. Corrupted Ghouls. Krull summons 4 Corrupted Ghouls that rush towards the nearest enemies and explode, damaging all nearby enemies and leaving behind pools of necrotic goo that last for 30 seconds. What it doesn't say is for 30 seconds that pool of goo is up, anything that comes into it takes damage. So this does damage every second per pool. And as long as your butt is high enough to have that be a good enough damage to remove like armor and stuff, this chews through things. Now I said second best ultimate because Corazon actually has the best ultimate for this because he can stack. He does the same. He has similar kind of pools, but he can stack so many more of them, but depending on how you build your formation. But similar effects. So here's what the ghouls look like. They run out. They're homing missiles. They will target the first thing they see. We kind of can't see the pools, but we could see that head disappear. And as you can see, the armor's just disappearing. This is the pools. This is the pools chewing through the health of whatever's back there. As you can see, still going because we get 30 seconds of this. And so you can use this as a great ultimate to just delete. There, see that pools now? Delete segmented health. Are we going to get... Yeah, one set of pools. Defeated Tiamat. That's the power of Krull's ultimate. It is... We call it either the Krulltimate or my personal favorite, the Krullening. Because you can just delete things with it. I want to look real quick. So this is my, let me put my feet back in correctly. Because people are usually like, well, what kind of damage bonuses are we actually talking about here? So that was Pilfer. Let me throw Pain in at 40. So here's what my plagues look like, folks. On my account. Now, item-wise, damage all champions item. And then we go straight into the good stuff. Pilfer item for gold find. Plague item for damage. Then there's an Arkhan's Army item, ultimate attack damage and ultimate cooldown. But this, with my item numbers, I mean, I'm not even above 500 yet. My gold per stack is 1958. 1958. So 1,958% more gold per stack. So remember, just at 10 stacks, that means I'm looking at 19,580% gold bonus, which is a solid gold bonus straight up. At 20 stacks, that's already 383 million. At 30 stacks, we've jumped up into 7.5 trillion. And at 40 stacks, I don't even know what this is. Million, billion, 146 quadrillion % gold find. This is when I'm talking about like 40 stacks of Krull are worth it. At late game, a Zaka farm, get your 40 stacks on. Like learn how to do it if you can't. If you're on a platform that enables it, it gets harder on. I recognize it's harder on consoles and mobile and tablets and stuff. Whew. Give it to us in ease. Oh, yes. 3, 6, 9, 12, 15. E17. 1.47 E17 is a 40 stack for gold find. But just understand, look, pain is going to work the same way. This is why you'll see your buds spike out of nowhere with Krull, is because pain will work the same way, and it has a much it's EO6 base, and it's going to be EO6 multiplicative with itself, right? So just know Krull can get wild. Now again, you do have to be able to kill one thing. Somehow you got to kill one thing. But once you do, if that plague spreads, things chain, and then you ride that damage bonus, either with ultimates or with fire breath potions, you can ride that damage bonus for serious progress and serious gold. These types of games with Krull, if you are why sometimes people will be like, I don't know what happened. I was upgrading my champions and then level up for a level, and then suddenly I went like 30 levels, 30 areas, and I was killing everything great, but I didn't get enough gold to upgrade them again. Well, it's because you got Krulled. You got a pilfer stack off Krull that went to 20 or 30 or 40, and you didn't notice. You got so much gold, you were able to upgrade your champions real far, further than they should have been able to get normally. And that lets you push super far, but you went into this trough of gold find because you dropped back down to normal gold find levels, and you were all the way over here with where you should have been, and you have to get all the way over there again to start leveling up again. Krull can be confusing, but Krull can be fun. Enjoy Krull. Now I will say there is some, along with the Zaka farming, there's another kind of form of gameplay that people use Krull in. It's click debuff. If you're going to be click debuffing with Krull's stuff, because pain does work that way, and so does Trader, and the Pilfer feeds into that too. He's kind of a core in that click debuff setup. You don't want to use Fire Breath for that, because Fire Breath turns off your click damage. I know it says adds to the base damage. It does not. It turns it off completely because it's based off Bud, and they don't allow you to double dip Bud. So when you're setting your Bud with a big hit on something that's been pained with Krull, you don't then get the bonus with this anymore. So if you're going to be click debuffing, don't Fire Breath. But if you just see a huge Bud spike, because Krull did a Krull thing and it's way bigger than it should be, pop a Fire Breath, pop a Speed Potion, let it push you super far, pop a Gold Find, let it push you super far and enjoy that quick progress. If you were near your wall, you may end up way, way, way better off than you would have normally. Okay, folks. So this has been the Knights of Takhisis. So we're gonna take a short musical break. I just want to bring this up. This is the Knights of Takhisis bundle. You can, of course, buy them separately. This is the Arkhan. These are good skins. This is the Arkhan skin. This is the Krull skin. He's got all the Tiamat colors on the shell. That's pretty fantastic. And this is a Torogar. Yeah. Oh, yeah. He's a beefy boy. This is a Torogar skin. And, of course, they come with lots of chests and other things. The chests are going to have a guaranteed shiny for Krull and Torogar. Arkhan is not. That's why you get the Potion of Polish, but that's better. You can put it anywhere. So, if you like these three and you like the Knights of Takisis, Dragonlance style, there you go. I will be back. We're going to take a short musical interlude. We'll do the Q&A afterwards. I got about a dozen questions stacked up, so if you have other questions, throw them in. What song is this? Oh, this is Savage Fire. This is Torogar's song. Enjoy.
I serve this master on my own. I cling to no one, I just roam. Dark order calls and I do right. Cut across the ground like a devil's knife. Legions rise up in my command, slaying our foes across the land. And for my master I will die, but not before I take your life. Upon my fiery blades will be your life bloodstains. The pounding drums of war will be this song's refrain. I am pure savagery, the primal rage untamed. I am a conqueror in her unholy name. Reckless anger, savage solo. Dark tower reaches to the sky. Ancient dragon circling high. Standing below, we wage our war for the queen of dragonkind forevermore. We are unstoppable, we are her righteous wrath. We will set her free, I can let us on this path. We are pure savagery and primal rage untamed. We are the conquerors in her unholy name. Rise,
I love that song. Such a good song. All right, we are back. I'm going to dive into questions. I'm going to hit the ones that are on topic first, and then we'll do all the general stuff. Remember, folks, you can ask about whatever you want. We got plenty of time today. Question, types question, why do the members of the Dark Order appear to not complement each other very well? I don't know. I mean, we had Arkhan first, and then they introduced, the other two. I think it. So here's the thing. The way that the developers have approached affiliations has evolved over the years. Remember, we're about 5.5 years into the development of this game. Early on, the idea was that, sure, members of an affiliation were affiliated, and you could place them together, but that didn't necessarily mean that they were going to work. That there was going to be some kind of a bonus for being together, because the idea was that early on, when there weren't a whole lot of champions, they didn't want you just using those champions together and then not, using any of the other champions. They wanted you to just be able to take someone from an affiliation that you liked, but then use them with someone from another affiliation that you liked, and not lose potential power from them. Which meant back then they didn't get really extra bonuses for working together. Then they started adjusting that slightly over time as more champions arrived. And you started seeing some bonuses like the Companions of the Hall bonus, so small damage bonuses. And these I think this passed with this Dark Corner synergy stuff, and they kind of added some of these, but for whatever reason, they didn't necessarily look at it as a cohesive whole, and feed off the idea that of these, Arkhan's kind of the leader of the group, and maybe he's the one that should be getting the focus, and then they didn't really focus Arkhan. So there are bonuses. Their numbers do get bigger, but generally speaking, more often than not, it feels like they tend to be used without each other. They tend to be used just, I'm going to take Krull. Krull is what I call DPS agnostic. They don't care who their DPS is. They just want to spread those plagues, and anyone can blow them up. And he's kind of been that way forever. Now, he works better with some than others. Like, here's something I forgot to mention. You don't want to put Krull, necessarily pair Krull with like a Jarlaxle or a Catti-brie. The reason being, Jarlaxle and Catti-brie always attack the furthest enemy. And the enemy closest to you is the one that's going to have the plagues built up. So usually when you go and you start switching to using Krull, you're going to quickly move away from using Jarlaxle as a new player with your DPS and move to someone like Hitch. Hitch does a lot better, even though Hitch is a support. Hitch is super secret DPS club. You tend up switching to somebody else who's going to hit those plague stacks and pop them for you. Raphael, does Arkhan need rage stacks? He doesn't need them, but, extra damage is extra damage. They're going to trigger on their own if you run into a situation where you can't kill something. But again, it's, the Arkhan doesn't have to be in the front to get that if you're on a boss level. Yeah. Render, where do I get Torogar from? Well, you can either pick them up by picking up one of the packs in the store. That's the Knights of Takhisis. These just got added to the store yesterday, as of making this video. But you can also just get them out of a time gate. Every champion in the game, except for nerds, can be obtained. What I should say is every champion in the game that originally arrived in an event is now available in a time gate. That makes more sense. You can't get evergreen champions out of a time gate. So yeah, you can just time gate them. Is there a list of variants somewhere with enemies that get back up after being defeated? Probably. I'm not the keeper of that list, so I wouldn't know. I just know that what I do is most people just pick one variant that does that and then keep it and don't finish it. So for me, it's Twilight Twist and Waterdeep. I can show you exactly where that is because it's the only thing I haven't finished in Waterdeep. Right here. Twilight Twist. So it's Relentless Ghouls is the key that you're looking for there. Or something that functions like a Relentless Ghoul. So after 5 seconds, they get back up and start attacking again. Now that's the one that I find super easy for like Torogar and Dahani. Dahani's another champion that stacks like this. Also works with Zorbu, but only for undead. Zorbu would stack undead this way. There are variants, like there's a variant off of like I think it's Jaheira, so out of a time gate. That's the Burrs ones. I can't even remember the name of it. It makes a lot of sense. An Unkindness of Ravens. That's what it is. And it's similar. It's every time a wave spawns, like every time you kill a raven, more ravens spawn. So eventually you just have 100 ravens on the screen. Will spawn out at once, and then you kill them, and then 100 more spawn, and then you kill them. I have nightmares about that one. So it's there are other places, but generally speaking, it's good to just keep a regular campaign variant. There's multiple that are like this. You just need one of them. You just need one that's going to do that, and you can stack it there. T5 Cat, sorry if I missed it, but after 2.5 million stacks, does Torogar's bonus increase at all? So here's the thing. Yes, he's permanent stacking champion. So the higher you stack, the more you're getting that additive stacking bonus. What happens, and why I stopped at 2.5 million, is there are no more of these fixed extra features of Blood Rage. So I just stacked my Torogar up to full feature Blood Rage, and kind of stopped. But if I keep stacking, remember I'm getting a little over 7% more damage per stack. So, and over here, it's a nice big chunk per stack. Again, I'm looking in this setup with all 3 Dark Order members at an E17 bonus, right, for his buff to others. Yeah. So it will stack forever. If I just wanted to spend a lot of time stacking Torogar, I could get it up there real high. It just wasn't a priority for me. Raphael, can Trader go over 100% damage? I.e., you attack a unit for 10, Trader's 200%, so you do 20 damage. Yeah, if you choose the specialization that doubles, but each specialization doubles an effect of a plague. So if you choose the Trader spec, it's 20% per stack, so you do 200% more damage when you get there, right? Like if I switch, if we just switch Krull to Trader, see, increase the effect of Plague Trader by 100%, and then I come in here and I look at Plague Trader, it's 20% per damage stack, so 200% total. That can, you got to be careful with that. That'll get you in some weird situations. You'll end up with more of those what I call leftovers, Krull leftovers, right? When your Trader is real big. But it is interesting if you get an enemy that spawns out like this, that's like hit based or armor based, and they spawn with a bunch of trash mobs. If you get Trader on those trash mobs and then you hit with an AoE, the explosion will just delete the boss because they're taking multiple hits at once from the Trader. Raphael, Gaarawarr, do you know how Pain and Trader work? Yeah. If you do, could you explain? I mean, I thought I did, but I think you mean like together. So if you have Pain and Trader, Pain and Trader both on. So the left side of the screen is going to have the Trader buff. The right side of the screen is going to have the Pain buff. If they're both stacked up, the amount of damage they're going to take as an individual unit goes up because of Pain. Whatever that amount of damage is what Trader then multiplies and explodes out to everybody else. This is why when people are having trouble getting to like 40 stacks, they're like, I can't get 40 stacks. One of the things that when they're Azaka farming, one of the things I tell them is take your DPS out of the formation, or if you're using click debuff, take the clickers off the field. Stop doing damage. Give all the enemies time to build up full stacks, specifically Pilfer, but you want full stacks. And once you know that all the enemies, like on a boss level, all 11 enemies have full stacks, then you start doing the damages. Not only does that give you more potential stacks to move away with, to spread with Virulent Strain, and thus get to 40, but it's going to ensure that you don't actually kill stuff early on that hasn't got a plague stack yet. Because if you're just doing damage consistently as the enemies come in, someone might get to 10 pain and traitor stacks before anyone gets pilfer if you have horrible luck, and you just wipe and you end up with 10 pilfer stacks, right? So there's ways you can manipulate those situations once you know what's going on. Andrew Dan, combining these 3 champions in another formation, would it make a stronger composition formation? Well, I mean, you would never just put these 3 on their own. You're always going to fill out the whole formation with champions. And if you're building, you just have to decide who you're building the damage around, because there are technically 2 DPS here. But if you're going to use Arkhan, then what you need to do is get positional. All the other champions need to have positional formation abilities that are going to land on Torogar or Krull, and then Arkhan will usurp off of them and get bigger. Raphael again. I know they removed the old Fire Breath potion, but how would that work with Krull? I mean, it's the same way, because the old ones here. For those of you who haven't seen an expired Fire Breath potion, here you go. These were determined to break the game, so they expired them and created the current set of Fire Breath potions. You can't get these anymore, but those of us who have some still left over hold on to them as kind of mementos. It doesn't. I mean, this has nothing to do with your bud. So it's just. I mean, they work. They're going to work just like they would work with anyone, because they're doing a % of max health of an enemy. So like Expire Fire Breath, they're gonna kind of synergize with champions that lower max health. I don't even think we have that. It's better with like there are Modron cores that have a % health reduction. They would synergize better with that than any champion currently in the game, because they're not doing bud based damage, right? It's the regular Fire Breath potions that are doing bud based damage. I grabbed this one. TG Nubis. So you're saying Krull plus Fire Breath in certain situations if you're not going to be click debuffing. If you happen to be watching and you see that huge spike because you got like an invisible 40 stack at random. I call it invisible because you got it and it died so quick you didn't notice. But you see your bud spike up, you can ride that with a regular Fire Breath. And then you follow up with or Krull plus Bud champions. That's the big thing. Now we have these Bud champs. So as referred here, there are champions who have a Bud based dot with them. Stokey was one of the earliest. That's not a dot; it's a damage explosion. I don't know that I would ride the Stokey train for that one, but someone like Finn now. Finn's the most recent champion we have with a Bud based dot. If you put them in their left specialization, their support spec, every one of their attacks does like 5 seconds of Bud based damage or something like that. That's great when you're riding out a Krull Bud spike, because then they're just going to be dotting like a Fire Breath, right? Yeah. Oh, that's true. Eliwick has a health reduction feature. Man, I forget that because it's not usually the one you choose. It's not usually the one you choose. And honestly, if you have the expired Fire Breath potions, usually you're not using them anyway. So, Matthias Zero, why doesn't Preach actually affect Torogar? Because they didn't want it to. Again, this is a dev question. The answer is because they didn't want it to. It's not a bug or anything. They were trying to avoid another Zorbu situation at the time, and maybe this is what this is because maybe if you weren't there, you don't know. At the time, Zorbu was just considered brokenly stupid damage. Zorbu was just the king because Zorbu's buff affected themselves. I mean, they had their permanent damage stack that affected themselves, but then they had a support buff But then that also worked for them too, and the two of those things together just made their damage way too high, and they were the king of DPS. And they were that way for like a year or more. So they were trying to... Zorba was like the second champion that they did a permanent stacking feature on. The first was Black Viper. Black Viper came in a little too weak. Zorba came in a little too strong. Torogar came in more balanced. And they've continued to play around with that feature, but what they haven't done is go back and make any adjustments to other champions yet. All right. Silly Simon, I've been thinking of using Warduke, but I'm certain where to use them appropriately, effectively. I guess my question is, repeating for all the champs you showcase, what would happen with Krull if Warduke was in the formation? Nothing. Krull doesn't have a positional formation ability. So nothing. Although, yeah, Krull doesn't have Krull has no... That's the problem with Krull when using Krull with Arkhan. Because Arkhan, like Warduke, has a feature that's based off positional formation abilities, but Krull doesn't have any. So none. I mean, you just use Warduke and Krull would do Krull things. Like I said, Krull doesn't care. Krull doesn't care about your DPS. As long as you have one, Krull's going to do what he's going to do. Yeah. Yep. All right, heading back up to knock out all the rest of the questions. We got some stuff from Season questions. Jordan Utopia, is there a way to advance in the quest about killing 15,000 enemies with Spiritual Weapon of Nares as a new player? Yes. You have to build a very specific formation and farm them. My recommendation is ignore it, but if you really want to do it, there is a guide on the subreddit. I'll put the name in chat by Human123. That explains how to set up for this back when it was 75,000 kills. And I did the 75,000 kills in a few hours with Fire Breath potions and some bonus credit, which means you could do it too, or not with speed potions, excuse me, which means you can do it too. And it's going to, probably be about the same amount of time investment. It is something you just have to sit and farm. It wasn't a great quest, but they know that. That's why they lowered the numbers. But it's one of those things where if you don't want to invest the time, it's only worth 900 currency. If you don't want to invest the time in it, you don't have to do it. But if you want to, go for it. What about killing the Devourer and the Bearer of Purple? So both of those champions exist in the campaign, in the campaigns in places. Off the top of my head, hold on. Let me see. Where's the Devourer at? There is two places. So you're a new player, so you're not going to be in Light of Xerxes yet. El Terrell has fallen. They're in El Terrell has fallen. So I don't. Yeah, if you haven't unlocked those campaign places yet, you might not be able to get them. Let me see where else. So there's also. Was that? No, most of these are events. I'm trying to find. Something that isn't an event. There's some you can search on the subreddit for this or ask in the Discord. There are some places that you can do both the Devourer and the Bearer of Purple. Yeah. Otherwise, again, it's time gates. These are enemies, these are bosses that were in the event that was going on when that quest was added to the queue. So the devs are just like, well, you do it when the event shows up, because the event's going on right now. They weren't really designed around the fact that, well, but people are going to come in later. And as far as the devs are concerned, their answer on Dev Insights is, well, you can open a time gate to do it, but that's not worth it. So again, those are also ones where, if you're not quite to the place where they are in a campaign, don't bother with those. Lesh68 has a related question. Who is Nanny Poo Poo? Nanny Poo Poo was one of the bosses in the last event. They aren't in anywhere in the campaign. Again, the response from the devs is, well, if you want to do that quest, you can open a time gate. again, I think those are ones you just you can kind of ignore. Yeah. Your dailies are going to give you the most currency. If you can work on milestones as a newer player, you can get through some of the early milestones pretty quickly. And then just aim for the other things whatever other stuff you have available. Like I'm not even getting real grindy with these, but yeah, unfortunately. Unfortunately, some of those just aren't super friendly if you're coming in as a new player and their event isn't currently active. Pincer99, how do I get a character I can swap with Jarlaxle? I don't have any yet. I mean, there's a Timegate weekend going on right now. So the natural Timegate weekend, if you click on the arch up here, it says free Timegate weekend. If you come over here, you'll have 3 champions available to you. One of them might swap with Jarlaxle. It will show that if you don't own them, it will show the champions they swap with. Regardless, everybody, if you're a new player, you should be doing your free natural Timegate this weekend. You will have 3 different champions than I do. These are the champions presented are based off of your account because they're always going to give you at least one you don't own. I own them all, so I just get random stuff. So make sure that's one way to do it is the natural Timegate weekend. The other way is to run a manual Timegate, which means instead of this stuff up here that are free, you come down here and you just pick one. There are a lot of champions that are in Jarlaxle's slot. Here's all of them. So Desmond, who's shown here, and then everybody else. If you're going to do a manual Timegate for one, Baloth is pretty fantastic. He's the one I would recommend. Yeah. But that's, yeah. Timegates, events happen every 3 weeks. Events are a good way to get new champions. Timegates are how you go back and hunt specific champions. Every event champion that ever arrived, every champion that ever arrived by an event is available via Timegate. Nothing is locked away in that way. And then you can also you can unlock champions in the campaign by doing certain stuff, but there isn't one for slot 4 yet currently. Not currently. Oh yeah, I forgot to do my chess code, folks. So normally the cryptex is 12 digits, but down here in the bottom left, you can switch it to 16, which allows you to fit today's code in. 3 Dark Knights. 3 Dark Knights. DiMargero, is Zorabu, Torogar, Kent, and Black Viper the only ones with infinite stacking mechanics? So Kent doesn't belong in that list. Kent has a thing, but it's... Yeah, so here, let's just... I mean, we can throw Kent in. Kent has a mechanic. Kent's mechanic works differently. Oh, I need to actually throw them in the formation. We were under attack. Expected it to load in automatically. Tools of the Departed, where you collect soul tokens, soul trinkets, but these don't stack infinitely. They'll only go as high as the campaign as you can go in any campaign, which is supposed to be 2,000. I know this says 2,050. That was a bug. So the highest number you should currently, without a bug, be able to get for each of the soul tokens is 2,000. So that's not a permanently stacking mechanic. It is, or it's not a continuously permanent stacking mechanic. I guess that we got to use qualifiers now. Kent's new, so Kent's throwing things off. It is something you earn once and will always stay with you, but with the others, not only do you earn them and it stays with you, you can keep earning more and more and more and more. So Black Viper was the first. Hers does end up getting to a cap, but getting more does, like for her bonus abilities, but getting more, like earning them in an adventure does boost her damage. So it's just, it does get to a point where it stops, where you can stop. Zorbu was the second. Zorbu's goes forever and ever and ever. As many kills as you want to put on Zorbu, they keep going up. EO5 tends to be fine. And once you get to EO5, then you're doing lots of damage, and then you'll just accrue stacks just by using Zorbu. EO6, if you're in a good place, you can easily farm to EO6, but EO5 tends to be fine. Some people ramp it up higher than that, but there's diminishing returns over time. Torogar, again, we've talked about Torogar today. Dahani. Dahani is in slot 1. She doesn't need kills. She just has to mark things with paint. She has some features that you can unlock and to a certain degree, and then after that, she keeps on going forever. Those are the ones that affect their damage. So Black Viper, Zorbu, Torogar, Dahani. Now there are other features. I said Black Viper, Raphael, but Black Viper isn't they get to a cap and then they stop. They don't get to go on forever like the other champions do. So Zorbu, Torogar, and Dahani are the ones that can just keep going forever. So like Kent and Black Viper are now kind of in their own little pool where you stack them up to a certain point and then you stop because you're done. Now there is someone like Morgaine. No, 9. Slot 9. Morgaine has a continuously stacking mechanic, but it's based off gold earned while they're in the formation. And because you're dealing with super large numbers, just putting in Morgaine to soak up gold in every run doesn't do anything for you. Because you need... oh, no, I'll mention Nahara. Nahara's new. Dang it. Because with Morgaine, with gold, like I'm earning I have E107 gold up there. If I'm doing short runs with Morgaine and I'm not earning more than E107 gold, am I earning more gold for her? Sure. But because we're dealing with orders of magnitude, it doesn't matter unless I'm getting a higher order of magnitude. So like with Morgaine, when you're doing an Azaka farm, you drop them in if you're earning more gold than you have before. And it moves them up to like a new high water mark is the way I like to refer to it. And then you then you take her out. I'll show you what it looks like. We'll level it up. Okay. Paid up front. So it tracks your total gold collected, and it's going to be based off whatever the highest E value is. And it only goes up 5% for each order of magnitude. So I'm super high. This came off that one super deep run, so I'll never have to do that. I won't have to do this for a very long time. And I'm sitting at like an EO8 bonus. So this isn't the same. Like, I don't need to put Morgaine in and let her soak up gold anymore. Because there's no way, unless I get to E325 again, there's no way this is going anywhere. It's just not. I have to get to E326 to get another 5% towards this. Nah. Right? So at a certain point, with Morgaine, it just doesn't matter. The diminishing returns kick in hard, and she doesn't stack up the same way. Nahara is new. I do forget that I just use Nahara. Honestly, I use Nahara for speed, and I forget that she does have a stacking mechanic. So hers, though, is different, because, again, we were talking... Usually this is talking about kills. So Torogar, Zorbu, and Dahani are about, like, attacking things. Nahara is about having her in the formation when you complete an area for the first time. So she's the one that you can have in when you're just doing speed runs to like 50 or something, like for gems, or 30 or 80 for gems, whatever number you're doing for gems. She could be in that, and she'll be stacking up over time because she just cares about you completing an area. And that this bonus does persist to reset. So like my Who Am I? I'm now at EO6 fragments. I haven't even really tried to stack her. But that's about completing an area and not about like killing things. Like you don't. So these have different stacking mechanics. But hers is a continuously stacking permanent stack mechanic like Torogar's and Dahani's and Zorbu's. Black Viper and Kent have a stacking mechanic, but eventually you're going to get to a cap. And Morgaine has one that functionally you don't stack her the same way as you would other things. It just doesn't make sense to. And we're out of questions. Brig has a build it once persister. Yeah, but it's not. That's like, can you build the perfect Brig Hellclaw formation once? Yay! Now we're gonna reward you. That's it. That's all. That's all Brig does. Again, once you've done it once, you never have to worry about it again. Vastly different type of situation. Folks, we got about 15 minutes left. If you have more questions, I got more answers. Yeah. Oh yes, Kent also has. Oh, Kent. Let me throw Kent in. Kent does have another thing, but this is not. These are functionally different things. Kent's extra ability gives you more damage based off your achievement bonuses. You can't really. I mean, you can go try to farm achievements, but there's a limited number of them in the game. I shouldn't even say number, because everybody's number is going to be different. Well, some people's numbers are going to be different. But there's a maximum bonus that you can get in the game. It goes up every event because they add more champions with every event, and you're going to get 5 more achievements every event, but that's it. Not really the same type of thing. Zakir, has it been tested in hard council levels that Briv jumps over? I haven't tested that. So I don't know. Part of me wants to say that it counts, but I feel like, but another part of me is like, literally it shouldn't, because she didn't complete that level. So I don't know. That's probably a Dev Insights question. Yeah. I mentioned Briv this week many times, just maybe not in today's show. Naked Gnome Regan. For new mid-game and late players, which tier 11 seasonal rewards do you recommend? Yeah. So if you are at tier 11, if you're free to play, these are the only 3 options: the gold chest, the potions, and the contracts. In which case, the contract pack is priority. If you have the season pass, then you have everything open available to you. And the highest priority is going to be Scales of Tiamat at any level. At any level, even if you're newer, having this stuff banked up for you is better than not. Now there are cases where maybe you're going to want some Modron component chests along with that. You do you. But if you are legendarying your champions for the first time, you're putting 1 legendary at level 1 on them. 2,000 scales. Just one of these packs is 4 legendary items. It's kind of a big deal. The reason I don't value the Modron component chest as highly now after the Forge changes is because what you're going to get out of these chests is going to be random. You have to deal with RNG. You don't know if you're going to get anything good or not. You could buy 10 of these packs, open 20 Modron component chests, and get nothing that helps you. Now that was fine before because you just had to roll the dice in the old system. Like it was better, maybe better than some scales, maybe not. It was a solid deal before in the season 1. But now with the legendary Forge changes, this is a lot of power, and it's permanent power, regardless of what Modron core you're using. So that's my opinion. You obviously do what you will. Just know that these are the two highest priority things, even more than this for somebody who has the season pass. Because as a newer player, like contracts, I mean, there's a situation where this could be good. Like if you have Briv and you're trying to build your Briv up and you just want to focus on that, there's an argument to be made there. But for the long term, it's going to be scales or Modron chests, and I would weigh the distinct clear power you get from scales more than the randomness of a Modron chest. But you can make your own decision based off that. Starches 43. Do you remember when Idle Champions Presents is scheduled to happen on Monday? Yeah, Monday. I mean, I don't remember off the top of my head, but I have it on my schedule. Monday, 10 a.m. Pacifically. Idle Champions Presents Fury of the Black Rose. Strahd's Fursona, Sauce Fursona is a squirrel. I'm just going to say gray squirrel. I think I was saying Strahd yesterday, and I don't know why. Lord Sauce Fursona is a gray squirrel. Yeah, it's 3 hours starting at 10 a.m. Pacifically speaking. That's the live play that's going to happen. Smoking One. I'm doing a trial at a new level now, and champs must have an intelligence of 10 or more. This is day one, and I've not seen a restriction like this in lower levels. Is this random, or when a pre-trial the same material with a restriction of 10 plus be the same? You just got lucky. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what trial, like tier of trials you're on. Your day one restriction is always a stat restriction. Always. Now, it could be one of the 6 different stats, but it's always going to be a stat restriction. You just got lucky and never saw the int one. I have it in my guide to trials that's on the subreddit. It lists off the different possibilities from day 1 through day 7, so you can see them all. But yeah, you just got lucky before. It has nothing to do with what tier of the trial you're on. It's just a random die roll. Ronanzo, I made an unexpected jump from Oral's favor stage around E36 to offline progress E34. Was there any update I missed for that ridiculous rise in power? No, you ran into the bug. There's a bug. There's a bug right now with offline progress. Where occasionally you'll just be going way further than you should. That's how I ended up with that 2050 tokens on Kent. Yeah, it can be real egregious. It looks like you just barely cleared. You got to 2001. I've seen a screenshot of someone that was at area 4,851 or something like that. So it's just a weird bug that has been sent to them. They know, well, some of them know. I don't know if all of them know. But if they can't, no one's been able to truly reproduce it. It's a random happenstance. Something to do with the changes to offline progress. Yeah. But don't worry, if it accidentally happens, you don't get banned. You don't get the suspension, You don't get the suspension that normally occurs if you manipulate the game to go over the area cap. Area cap's supposed to be area 2000. You're not even supposed to be able to get over it, but the system breaks. This is how you know it's a bug. The system just breaks for some reason, and it lets you pass, and it doesn't do anything to you. Smoking One is the only way to get the final Modron core to purchase it. Final. I think you mean strong core. The strong core. I thought you could buy it for gems, but I don't see it. Yes, strong core is 500,000 gems. The strong core, you have to come into this interface to the buy additional cores button, and it'll be listed here. It's in its own Modron shop. Don't ask me why they did it that way. I don't know, but that's where it is. It's not worth your gems. Until you're earning like 500,000 gems in a week and you just want to blow them because you just want to throw them away because you're like, man, I just want another core for automation. It's not worth your time. Lucky Rider, do you think the legendary system overrides the importance of item levels? Or is it still balanced? They are separate effects, so I don't think they override the importance of item levels. Plus, you got to remember the legendary system, like, you can only upgrade a legendary item to 20. But general items for power their item levels can go up forever. Is it more power? Yes, but if it was detached from the item, I don't know that you'd be asking this, right? Like, I've never heard anybody say, do you think the Modron core gets rid of the importance of item levels? Or do you think patron perks get rid of the importance of item levels? Those are lots of power too. It's just another form of another system that provides additional power. One might be a priority of the other, but that doesn't mean that you ignore one at the expense of another, right? Raphael, does Freely's adventurous tale work multiplicatively? Do you mean the feats? Yes, they're supposed to. If they don't, submit a ticket. If you're talking about the feats, if you're talking about something else, it should state. Should state if it's additive or. Preach area completed freely in the formation give a 0.1 bonus to divine favor armor. It stacks additively. But the feats are multiplicative feats. Right here. Percentages. I don't need to change these out because I'm not on at the end of a run. But yeah, any percentage feat should stack multiplicatively, and if it's not, submit a ticket. So Simon, since Legendary is a new epic landed and you're balancing legendary upgrades evenly, I'm asking if you've chosen some legendaries to upgrade beyond your balance levels. No. Favorite DPS and support champs perhaps? If so, which? No. Not since the change. You gotta remember before the change, there were some that I upgraded more than others just because I had very few legendaries, comparatively speaking. Now, literally every one of my champions is in full legendary, so they're going up. The champions that I've chosen to upgrade their items for are going up equally. RCP 2 Kids, is there a guide for Split the Party 3? Not a specific one, no, but the guide that explains how to do Split the Party 1 and 2. I mean, Split the Party 3 is the same mechanic, but with just a slightly higher percentage removal rate. So I didn't make a walkthrough for 3 like I did for 1 and 2. But if you did 1 and 2, you should understand how 3 works. You may have to add an extra champion. But yeah, I mean, that's just kind of how those systems work. Valdemar Knight wrote, is the Heroes core in the core store now? No, I don't think so, because it's like, I think they said 6 months afterwards. And SailNet said, new champion review. I mean, if we hadn't had all those questions, we probably could have talked about the new champion. Solok, folks, arrives on Wednesday with the event. Wednesday, noon Pacifically. I don't know. Why is that not? Seriously, there it is. Okay. I'm like, why is it not showing up on the post? Here's the blog post if you want to go talk about Solok. Solok is the... can I get this on the screen? Nope. That was the wrong thing. That's the blog post. Yep. Solok. There we go. This is not working right, but that's what we get. Apparently, I got to go in OBS update, and apparently it screwed up my things again. Solok's the champion that's going to be played in Idle Champions Presents Fury of the Black Rose by Gabe Hicks. Solok's a Drake Warden Ranger, I think? Yes. So they're going to ride that dragon in the game. We're going to have a champion riding a dragon, folks. Never been done before. This champion was created specifically for Idle Champions, so it didn't exist anywhere else. But they're going to be playing. Gabe's going to be playing them in Fear of the Black Rose on Monday. So if you want to get some, if you want to learn the only lore there is to know about Solok, watch Fear of the Black Rose. Quick read. I'm going to turn this off because it looks real bad. Their basic attack does a knockback. They have an ability that buffs based off the number of times you knock someone back in an area. It stacks multiplicatively, but it caps at 50 stacks. So they can create their own stacking situation with knockbacks. So this is a champion who's going to synergize well with other support champions that have knockbacks. They're a support champion. They buff people who do ranged attacks. So this is going to be someone who's going to buff like champions like I think Ishii has ranged. Doesn't Ishii have ranged, folks? This is what happens. I don't use Ishii a lot. No, they're melee. Never mind. Pfft, what do I know? I've only been playing 5.5 years. Hitch has a ranged attack. They're a support champion. Zorbu, we were talking about Zorbu earlier, range DPS. Caddy Bree, range DPS. So they're basically, they don't buff them. They gain stacks for each champion with a ranged base attack in the formation. That's what's going on. What else do they do? Yeah, and then they buff. Then they buff the positional formation abilities of champions with a ranged base attack, based off those stacks. So they're built around ranged attacks. Formations with lots of ranged attacks. Egbert's going to work well as a tank in this formation. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So interesting, a new kind of champion. Think about them a lot like maybe a ranged version of Alcoria in terms of support. Yeah. So there's lots of champions that are going to be, there's lots of ranged support champions. I was trying to think of like who's a DPS champion that's going to also synergize with this because that's going to add another stack for you, right? That's going to add another stack for you if everyone's ranged. Yeah. So lots of ranged supports to build out with Solok. They will be arriving for free in the event on Wednesday. That's going to be it, folks. Thanks for hanging out. This is the last stream for the weekend. Streams resume Monday, 10 a.m. Pacifically. Idle Champions presents Fury of the Black Rose. Get your vote on in game. Get rewards. You can unlock Merowyn, Rust, and Sentry just by using reward tokens. That's wild. 3 free champions, basically. And get a new familiar. I will be streaming in about an hour on my channel, Twitch TV/Gaarawarr. If you want to come hang out, it's Final Fantasy Saturday. We're playing Final Fantasy VI. I'll also be doing what I'm now affectionately referring to as the unofficial after show for Idle Champions Presents. I stream on Mondays on my channel, and I am not going to start streaming until after Fury of the Black Rose. Come hang out afterwards. We play some Idle Champions, and we'll probably talk about the stream. So I will see you then. Bye, everybody. This song we're going out on, You Could Be My Dragon Queen. Of course.
When I look into your tan bright eyes, I feel a change inside I can't explain. Your long red wings become my everything as I feel power flowing through my veins. Love is hell, but here's the thing. You could be my dragon queen, and I could be your paladin. Our love will be evergreen. We're just like fire and gasoline. Your 5 devious minds mesmerize me, but your